It's the series that started this goddamn YouTube channel, all right? The initial video where it was brown hairs and flat colors. It was odd memes and uncomfortable statements, and I had to figure out how to say the word actually 74 times in a video because I was just trying to put it all together, and we were babies. But it's time for the month of Get Us Up back to 1 million subscribers, even though we've never been there before, and we're doing it by bringing back some classics. Want to know how we're going to talk about this thing? The thing you wish you had. That's what we're about to talk about. The cars that in no way, shape, or form we deserve yet, okay? And because of inflation, even the used prices of these little shits are gonna stay just a touch out of range for the next 3 or 4 years, which is much more longer than we actually want. We're talking about So You Want series, and that means we're bringing back a classic. And at this point, you might as well buy from the dealership. I'm gonna be honest. I'm Alex at Fine Instagram, and today we're bringing back something special. We're talking about the new array of sports cars, the DLC we never thought we were going to get as an automobile enthusiast. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're gonna be talking about you wanting to own a new MSRP tuner car. Roll it with the good audio. You can tell in my neck when I stop breathing because there's a vein that comes out. I also do it when I'm angry. Welcome back. It feels good to talk about a So You Want series, and I missed it. Okay, so let me know if you did too below, and don't forget to subscribe. We really are trying to get to 1 million subs. It'd be super awesome. And if you're looking for aftermarket wheels, tires, or suspension, don't forget to check out fitmentindustries.com. And of course, I want you to hear this, that I love you. The year is 2008. The global recession had fully taken hold, and your parents were no longer purchasing name brand milk, if that was even a thing. It was whatever was on sale, or just water from the tap, because that's just how it kind of sort of went. I always drank water from the tap. Tap water is okay. If you like bottled water and you don't drink tap water, we might have issues, okay? But it was an odd time, a mix of web e-commerce and fake money that had created a concern that big companies actually had no idea what the f they were doing, which was fairly true at the time and somewhat valid. At the same time, automobile manufacturers had essentially removed everything that they could from their lineup of cars to focus on only the stuff that actually was guaranteed to turn a profit, which was a good idea when you consider the fact that auto manufacturers, particularly the big three, were in a lot of trouble in the late 2000s. They were easy to make, is what they wanted. They were low on sort of reliability issues, and they wanted it to be super easy to market. The days of economical sedans and small business style commercials and caring for the environment really began to take hold, and the push of car manufacturers to make sports cars or SUVs of any kind was pretty much zero. It was like a return of the early 70s and the impact that the car industry had on the world. Now sure, there were still some like lost leaders in the fray, but in the domestic scene, it wasn't much of a focus for pretty much anyone. So cars like the BRZ and FRS wouldn't meet the world until 2012. Toyota Supra would take and dissipate with Toyota and report its first loss after 70 years, idling its truck plants and pretty much saying, if anybody even mentions the word Supra, you're fired, okay? Honda had exited Formula One. Subaru ended its relationship with the World Rally Championship at the end of 2008. That still hurt, and there was so much more happening. It took about 2 or 3 years and a few billion-dollar bailouts and quite a bit of other money floating from places that we don't even know existed to get some of these companies back up and running. And while most consumers were still extremely hesitant to buy anything from the big three for what they were doing, car enthusiasts really didn't care, because car enthusiasts are mostly just children with adult money. They just wanted something to go drift, drag, or drive on a racetrack because they just wanted to live life. They wanted to enjoy it. There was enough negative news that really they thought maybe just getting out there and enjoying something like fishing or driving at 100 miles an hour might fix, you know, the espresso depresso. That's where that entry-level tuner market began. Automobile manufacturers began to realize that if you could in fact build an entry-level sports car, people would buy it. This was in the early 2010s. And sure, it'd have some funky stitching, and sure, it wouldn't have a ton of power, but by making it more about the lifestyle than the actual performance, car manufacturers like Subaru began to see sales trickle in on things that had less than a standard amount of doors, which was really exciting. This was something that they didn't need to do between Subaru and of course Toyota. The world continued onward and the closed door conversations began. This is where things really started to get interesting. The Toyota and BMW started to talk about what it would be like if they brought back the iconic Supra, have BMW's sports development strength and Toyota's lineage and reliability focus. That was a pretty cool idea, and it took quite a while to make that a reality. Nissan began to remember that they need to come out with a new car that's not the same car that's been running on the platform for 12 years straight. That's kind of sort of a Nissan thing to do, and they're like, well, if everybody else is doing it, maybe we can do it, and maybe we'll get it right. Subaru continued continued to work with Toyota to redefine what the 86 platform was going to look like. And Mitsubishi, they went out there, they were slinging wheels and they were selling SUVs. Mitsubishi is like the most depressing automobile manufacturer story we could possibly talk about. The following years leading into 2018 saw some of the biggest introductions and nods of vehicles that if you're over the age of 25 probably grew up with. And I'm going to be completely honest, they 100% did that on purpose. They 100% did that on purpose because they know us. They know we were turning into our late 20s. They know we were going into the early 30s. They know we were having kids. They knew it. They were waiting. All right. So nowadays, if you manage to keep that positive outlook and you haven't been crippled by the lifestyle change that these last 2 years provided us, we've now got some incredible cars coming down the line, and it really doesn't make sense as to why. And now you're sitting here with a 401k match wondering if it's really worth saving up for when you're old, if you'd rather smile now and still feel your toes. Maybe a retirement account isn't that important to you. The world is an automotive enthusiast oyster right now, which is why we need to talk about like people like you and people like me wanting to pick up one of these new and improved cars. Like there's too many options out there. So you want a new tuner car. All right, well, set down your hand sanitizer and grab your favorite 6-foot thwacking stick because we're about to talk about what it's like to own one of these new bad boys and whether if you should actually do it, whether it's worth the depreciation and the hangover, okay? By the way, press the subscribe button, please. Dakota's hands are turning purple. Buying a tuner car these days is a little different than buying a used one. First things first, new cars are practically the same price as some used old ones from the 90s. So really it's a toss-up if you want the glam of having a 30-year-old car that has a creaky and thin plastic interior, or if you want to buy a new car that likely has more shared components than IKEA does Allen wrenches. That choice inherently, before you even go into anything else, needs to be up to you. Both have their pros and cons. Both are things that you want to make sure that you make the decision for yourself. New tuners can be classified into a few different groups, okay? Starting off with number one, you have the same, but a little better. These are the cars that have been around already, have very minimal changes that would likely cause a car to be deemed a big failure, but aren't taking big risks outside of the basics, okay? Think of like the GR86, the Civic, and the Integra being in this space, okay? Then you have the get out of jail free cards. These are the ones where things are a little bit riskier, a little bit more expensive, but the collaboration between automobile manufacturers have likely ensured that this car just simply will not fail. And there's not many cars that sit in this bracket. An example of this would be Supra with Toyota and the newish ATS with the Camaro platform. They lie here. Dear God, I hope they work. This is the third bucket, and this is where the new Nissan Z, the mid-engine Chevy Corvette, and others sit that have a relatively new chassis, new design, new structure, or overhaul that is not backed by some publicly known joint partnership where things are a little bit scary, but hey, we're kind of sort of excited. If you're gonna pick up something that's in the same, but a little bit better category, you're probably sitting in the safest bed. Sure. These cars are typically targeting a lower cost, easier entry point that will still make you smile and still have a bit of fun, all right? And you're probably gonna see a wider range of people buying these types of cars. The warranties are nice, and for the most part, you won't be disappointed. Only downside to these cars is usually they have more underwhelming reception than positive. You could see it with the Integra, which was like an exclusive deck you could buy at Zoomies, and really it was just the same Shopco board that you could get with a different color match. Know that with these cars, the risks can be low, but the disappointment can be high. Know that before you jump into one of them, to try and get your hands on one to test drive before you put the deposit down, because this is really where most people seem to get upset, is in this bucket of cars. You have the get out of jail free cars. Now these are a solid choice if you're looking for a bit more of everything. At the small risk, they may not be as reliable, and you're willing to catch a little bit of slack. Now Supra is a common enough platform where people like to smack talk it, saying it's not genuine because it's a collaboration with BMW. But at the end of the day, the B58 absolutely spanks asses, and it's fast as hell and sounds like a car that'll take your mom to dinner even if you have a dad that's active in your life. It's just one of those cars that will do really well when it's in the right hands. Now, the best thing about these cars is that they typically have some sort of serious support for horsepower if they don't have some sort of kryptonite issue. ATSs were and are the same thing, and they're kind of slept on by people like us because we prefer tuner cars. But seriously, ATSs are bombed, and you can pick up a really good platform with a ton of modification potential, which makes them stupid fast, but your pockets have to be a little bit deeper and your initial buy-in has to be a little bit larger. Now finally, we have the dear God, I hope they work new tuner cars, and this is where all the fun really sits. These are where the boys and girls, where things, they seem hopeful, they seem bright, they seem different enough to where it truly feels like it's an actual new car, like we're actually getting something that's not just a rebranded pile of junk, a new energy and something that is unknown in the automotive world. Now this would be where I would argue the new Z kind of sort of sits, pairing of new parts, new new components, a few shared items, but predominantly a new take on the Z with forced induction, manual transmission, and a very specific nod to the past designs of the 240 to the 280Z. While it's different enough to be a little homage to the past, it's still a unique platform that I think is gonna be different enough. Now, the biggest opportunity here is that it makes a splash in the scene, and you could have cars that people will flock to. Okay, now one such example of this is the Nissan GTR when it came out in the late 2000s. People were super hesitant, and a lot was new on that platform, and as a result, people were like rightfully super nervous, but it ended up working out for Nissan, and now the GTR platform has more trophies than Lewis Hamilton when it comes to tuner breaking records for drag racing, for everything you could possibly imagine. Now, the only negative to these types of cars is that it can go through total opposite direction, and it can go through that opposite direction super fast. Cars like the Acura NSX, it had high hopes, high drama, high marketing, and a lackluster reception by the actual market that could buy them. You can win big, but you can also lose big, and typically when you lose, there's very little recovery to come after the fact, and you could see that with the NSX and the price point that you can pick one up now. So which one do you pick? Well, honestly, it's up to you. How much splash or noise do you want to make? How reliable do you want this car to be? How big of a risk are you willing to take? And when it comes down to picking up a new tuner car, those are all choices that you need to make. Those are all choices that they're going to define how you experience some of these new tuner cars. But regardless of which one you choose, you have to modify the shit out of it. Make it yours, make it fun, and of course, if it's unreliable, let us know. But what do you think? Are new tuner cars worth it, or should you have just invested your investment account into a 1994 Toyota Super Turbo US variant? If you're looking to snag your next set of wheels, tires, or suspension, be sure to hit us up over at fitmentindustries.com. Of course, we hope you enjoyed this. Let us know if you want to see more, and we will talk to you later. Peace.